us that really want to be risk takers, there's that capacity for the students to give us feedback. And I think that's something that we really need to start to undertake and think about. So, I think as a teacher myself, there's no better feeling, and even in the role I'm in currently, there's no better feeling for me at the end of the day when I've worked in a school with teachers and perhaps teachers and students to walk out the door knowing that they've given me feedback on what I've just done with them, the work that I've just done. So I'm sure as teachers we all live for that one little bit of feedback that we get, and of course in Hattie's work it shows up at about 6.7. He went on about, there's a real moral purpose to the whole situation of having a need to build learning communities, because it's perhaps through a learning community that's really the only way I believe that we can meet every student in that relational aspect, meeting them at where they are in terms of their learning and understanding. It's also about raising the bar. I think quite often in the past we really haven't set our expectations, or we haven't discussed publicly probably our expectations and those of the students, and bringing both of those sets of expectations together can easily be can be a focus, and easily done through Google Docs or any of the CloudShare tools. So again, it's all about building that capacity to really inform ourselves of what communities our children are involved with, what communities we want to be involved with. Greg's looked at the triple P component, and that's part of Fullen's model for how we can best undergo this. So we'll move on to the next slide. So in this, Michael Fullen talks about the triple P model, and the triple Ps. I mean, don't want to get it confused with that other dreaded term, triple PR. But yeah, the personalisation of knowing our students, that brings in that relational aspect. And then the precision. What goals do we set, and do we set them collaboratively? We've now got the opportunities where we can actually sit and goal set together, not only with our colleagues, but we can also sit down together with our colleagues and our students, particularly those of us who are in high school circumstances or in large primary schools where you're either 2, 3 or 4 streams. And then the other important aspect in the precision part of Fullen's model is making sure that the objectives that we're teaching to and working on are measurable. So that brings in the whole aspect of goal setting, measuring and achieving, and looking really at the assessment tasks that we can set up and do so with in relation to our students. And then we've also got our own professional learning, and the need to look at that in terms of how do we collaborate with our colleagues? How do we collaborate with our colleagues within our schools, within our system, and outside of it, in terms of, all of us being global educators and staff development. I might invite Greg now to present the next slide, which I think is a short video which you might want to have a look at. Sorry, I beg your pardon, my fault. I'm sure a lot of you would recognise this fella, George Kouros. He recently visited us, and in the presentation or the conference that I went to at Kensington, he's Alex's brother, in case you're wondering what the connection is, George and Alex. George is the younger brother. What I was fascinated with was the number of questions that he actually put to us. And some of them are quite challenging, in particularly those that he asked of us in terms of how we use and whether we accept the use of social media in our day-to-day teaching and learning. Later in the session, as I've already alluded to, we'll have a look at the work of his brother, and but I really was taken with this quote from George: "Where sharing exists, innovation flourishes," and I think CloudShare itself and all its components just enable us to do that so well. Yet so many, for many of us, my observation is that we are possibly assuming that to a degree, and that's a little bit of a problem, I think. So it's how, it's really getting us to focus on the many questions that he raises, and he raised questions that are like, well, how do we teach? How do we know how the students in front of us learn, and how do our policies in our schools affect that? I suppose one of the aspects that in a sense has saddened me in the job so far in term 3 is the fact that I've been in schools where, for argument's sake, chat is not blocked, but it's certainly not encouraged. I've just come out of a school where we had 46 nationalities, many ESL children, many LeBoat learners, upwards of 87%, and we have chat switched on from kindergarten to year 6, purely and simply so speaking and listening and language is so rich because the children can spend time, and teachers use chat to actually develop that learning community and that sense of learning community by using chat for really deep, higher order thinking questions, whether it be in kindergarten or up in year 6. And I'm sure it does raise questions. How do you control it? What happens when children abuse it? And I mean that really then makes us have to look at our cyber safety, our acceptable use policy, and really brings all those things into question. And as I said and alluded to earlier, it really makes us have to look at, well, how do we look at being as risk takers? Do we understand how to take the risks, and do we encourage innovation? And often that innovation is risk taking. You and McIntosh earlier at Edutech this year talked about disruptive leadership, and I think sometimes us at the chalk face, those of us in the classrooms, we have to take the bit, so to speak, between our teeth and be the day-to-day risk takers, those that are really going to lead innovation. And we've now got, I believe, a great suite of tools to enable us to do that in terms of what CloudShare offers us, once we start to really use them as part of our day-to-day pedagogy. Thanks, Greg.
So actually, just before I talk about this video, which some of you may have seen before, it's from Stephen Johnson, talks about where innovation or good ideas come from. We'll give you a moment in a second to have a look at that video. But I just wanted to mention something about that, what you were just talking about there, John, with chat, and the idea of chat within the context of ESL and multiple cultures, multiple languages. I don't know if you're aware, but Google does a great job with language translation. And you can actually do live language translation within chat. So you can have a Vietnamese student and an Italian student and a student from Sudan chatting in their native languages and have it converted between the languages. So there's not the scope to go through that here now, but certainly that whole idea of language translation, I think, is a wonderful resource that teachers and students have access to through the chat facility and just through the general Google Translation facility as well. Just as a corollary to that, you can also do that translation facility in Google Docs.
Yep.
So if you're aware of the fact that you can select a passage of text and convert it to any language at all, right? So that's a fantastic facility for helping with those kinds of conversations, literacy building, and building that sense of community across different languages within Google. So what I might do is we might just play a little bit of this video, but rather than you watching the video through the VC, because that may not come through very well, if you like, you can simply mute your volume, right, while the video is playing, and you can watch the video yourself just via the presentation. So we'll do that now. So where do you go?
For the past 5 years, I've been investigating this question of where good ideas come from. It's a kind of problem I think all of us are intrinsically interested in. We want to be more creative. We want to come up with better ideas. We want our organizations to be more innovative. I've looked at this problem from an environmental perspective. What are the spaces that have historically led to unusual rates of creativity and innovation? And what I've found in all of these systems, there are these recurring patterns that you see again and again that are crucial to creating environments that are unusually innovative. One pattern I call the slow hunch, that breakthrough ideas almost never come in a moment of great insight, in a sudden stroke of inspiration. Most important ideas take a long time to evolve, and they spend a long time dormant in the background. It isn't until the idea has had 2 or 3 years, sometimes 10 or 20 years to mature, that it suddenly becomes accessible to you and useful to you in a certain way. And this is partially because good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches so that they form something bigger than themselves. So you see a lot in the history of innovation, cases of someone who has half of an idea. There's a great story about the invention of the World Wide Web and Tim Berners-Lee. This is a project that Berners-Lee worked on for 10 years. But when he started, he didn't have a full vision for this new medium he was going to invent. He started working on one project as a side project to help him organize his own data. He scrapped that after a couple years, and he started working on another thing. And only after about 10 years did the full vision of the World Wide Web come into being. That is, more often than not, how ideas happen. They need time to incubate, and they spend a lot of time in this partial hunch form. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create.
So, folks, I'll stop the video there in terms of our presentation of it, and feel free to go back and have a look at it. To sort of summarize what he goes on to talk about, it's that quote there, chance favors the connected mind. That is, he posits that with all of these hunches floating around, these sort of partial or potential great ideas that are incubating, the way that they come to fruition is when they connect with other great ideas. And of course, that leads to the power of a learning community, right? The fact that when communities come together, these hunches, these ideas can collide, and that's where true innovation happens. So I'd encourage you to have a look. If you haven't seen that video before, watch the rest of the video. But we'll continue on as John talks a little bit more about building learning communities.
Okay, as I said, moving on.
Yeah, that's it. Just in the slide there.
Okay, sorry about that. As I said, Alan November has probably for the last 14, 15 years been really the forefather, if you like, of this whole concept of building learning communities. And he started his career as a teacher, obviously, but out on a small island in the middle of the harbour in Boston for I suppose what could only be best described as those students who deliberately try to underachieve and fall foul of the law. And it wasn't until he sat with his students and developed a learning community, and then actually they moved the school from the island into a barber shop. And the story goes from Alan that one evening one of the students had broken into the barber shop, which was the classroom or the school that he set up. And the reason that the student broke in was to actually sit down and work with the computer that was in the barber shop, or the renovated barber shop as it was. And obviously from that feedback that student gave to Alan, that's where his impetus, if you like, and his love for developing learning communities stems from. And he talks about that very powerfully in a lot of his texts and a lot of his books. But as he states there, instant feedback, and I mean that goes straight to Hattie's work again. The whole concept of this ability to be able to give instant feedback. And I was talking with Greg earlier today, and I said, it's fascinating that we can share a document on CloudShare, or we can share anything on CloudShare, whether it be a slides, Google Slides, a Google Form, whatever we're doing in class, and we can enable instant feedback, either through Teacher Dashboard. or through comments on the side on any of those docs. And it's that instant feedback that can really develop, going back to Fullen, develop that whole relational aspect of what is a worthwhile community. But when we throw that open then to what Greg just showed us in that quick little video clip, that whole concept of getting ideas, asking our students for their ideas. What would you like to learn about? I know we've worked with Ewan McIntosh and Tom Barrett, and soon to be working with Hamish Curry, who are all part of NoTosh, but not trying to put them forward. But their whole design thinking model is still all about developing, in my thinking, it's still all about developing an authentic learning community. But it's a community that's not teacher-centric, if that makes sense. It's more, and it's not student-centric. It's that relational aspect. It's enabling that instant feedback. What do you want to learn about? Not so what do you want to learn about today, but how do you want to learn? And understanding how every student in your class and every student in your school learns, and then developing a community of learners based on that. The focus on the students being problem solvers there in Alan November's statement there, he states instant feedback trend should be embraced as a powerful learning tool. And the lesson he says to us from this is to teach students how to solve any problem, a general problem-solving approach, and teach that in community. And I suppose that's basically what all our teaching and learning is about. If you sat down with, I would say, any year 5 or 6 student and asked them anything about Facebook, even though they're under 13, they're not to have Facebook accounts, a large number would. But if you actually said to them, well, where did you learn about Facebook? And it's from the community. It's from all those outside of the communities. And I suppose that's what brings it so much into my being, is the fact that we now have students who are operating across a whole range of different communities. And in some ways, we can either choose to move with that whole concept of communities that engage children and students in learning, or we can disengage them from that. And I suppose even that was the question that perhaps George and even more so Alec both put to us in terms of how do we make best use of the social media that we have at our disposal, yet being, and Greg so rightly puts it, we still have to conform and still have to maintain our, the terms and conditions of the providers of YouTube, etc. But we also have to, remain faithful, if you like, to our values and ethos of being a Catholic community as well. And yet our students can be, torn hither and thither from all the communities that they're involved in. So taking a look then at this wonderful suite that Google have and we as teachers and as a system have embraced, what I'd like to do now is just actually have a look at those, talk briefly about each of them, and then unpack one just so that we've got a bit of a chance to have a better look at one in detail. Google Plus community. I don't know whether you can see the cursor, the Google Plus community. At the moment, Google Plus is only available to teachers and will possibly remain that way. I'm going to elaborate on that more shortly, so I won't speak any more to that at the moment. But Google Docs, as Greg just alluded to, there is so much we can do in Google Docs in our classroom situation in terms of building a community of learners. And the fact that we can translate, the fact that we can research, we can set up the research so the students don't have to browse the internet ad hoc. We can actually have it all set up for us. They can give us instant feedback. We can give the students instant feedback. We can even do it now or using some of the add-on extras that if people choose to, like Kazina and things like that, where you can actually deliver comments over audio. And then there are Google Sites. Many schools that I've worked in this term are doing great things with their Google Sites in terms of building and developing the whole learning community of their schools, their staff, their students, and then involving the parents, enabling the parents to actually view the sites, to see what's happening, see what learning's happening and taking place in each of the classes, be it primary or secondary. I know there are lots of questions about privacy and those sorts of issues, but in terms of it all being protected. It's all within our CENet site, so it remains very much protected. And those schools that have embraced it, the feedback from the parents has always been positive. So it's a bit like George was saying, George Kouros, that is, do we react every time there's 1% of children or students do the wrong thing, and at the cost of the other 99%? So it's worth considering. Blogger, a number of schools that I've worked in are using Blogger, both primary and secondary, and the teachers are using it very effectively. Some teachers have set it up so that the students have their own Blogger account. Some teachers have set it up so that the students blog just with them. And again, it links beautifully into Teacher Dashboard, because in Teacher Dashboard you have the capacity to actually see the posts and the comments that every student in your class or classes is making. And Blogger can really enhance the whole capacity of widening communities. So you can, some schools have set up blogging across faculty. Some schools have set up blogging across interest groups. And in primary schools, it's working well in a couple that I've noticed where they've set it up as part of their literacy circles. Picasa is not so much a learning community, but it's a great place for sharing your photographs and being able to then quickly grab them and use them in any of those other elements. So I personally use Google Plus, and I also use Picasa. YouTube, my love of YouTube is split down the middle, because I can see the capacity to be able to use it and see the capacity of students in primary schools being able to use it terrifically well in creating learning communities. But as Greg points out to me, sitting here very stoic-faced, it's definitely 13 plus. So teachers are quite open to use it in primary schools, and I have seen a number of primary school teachers who are using YouTube really well, particularly in terms of RE and literacy and history and science. But and I know Donovan, who's sitting quietly on my right, who's been the CloudShare Support Officer for Teacher Dashboard. He presented a whole CloudShare Support VC on.
Donovan?
Yep, there he is. He presented the last VC session, which is available, as Greg said, on that site, on how teachers can use YouTube, and it's a great tool, and it can you can certainly do wonders with that. Chat, I don't think there's much more that I can add. I learnt something this afternoon. I was unaware. I was aware of the fact that we could use Translator in Google Docs, and how great a tool that is, and particularly, as I said, in coming from a high ESL school, but not knowing that you could actually chat in your mother tongue, for argument's sake, and another child can understand. I was completely unaware of that, and I'm sure a number of people, I would say 99.9% of us probably out there, were unaware of that one. So if I was back in the classroom tomorrow, you can bet what I'd be using. That would be a real plus. Groups, I haven't seen groups used all that effectively yet. Greg, have you?
Well, a great example there is the CloudShare Google Guides,
yep,
which is a professional learning community in itself. So, but I guess, groups is something that I guess is more of a closed community, in the sense that you can limit the number of members. It's not really a kind of a global audience like a blog can be, for instance, or YouTube, for instance. But it certainly serves a purpose, and we know that some schools use groups for reflective practice, where kids can comment and or post comments and conduct conversations around various topics, that sort of thing. So it's certainly possible. Yeah.
Can I make a comment about chat? Just taking it back one.
Yeah.
Just with the translation, being a LOTE teacher as well, sometimes when you're just looking for a word, it works really well. But if you're trying to translate slabs of text, you can end up with some very strange translations. So just be aware of that. It can come out not meaning what you want it to mean. So for individual words, but otherwise sometimes it can be a bit comical or dangerous.
So, Maria, was that within chat or within Google Docs or both?
Well, I suppose in both, but I'm thinking more along the lines of Google Docs and maybe a paragraph where you might be thinking
Sure.
about sending a letter to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the primary schools. It may have been St Kevin's at Eastwood, actually. No, it was Sacred Heart in Cabramatta, who were using Google Docs to translate their newsletter into Vietnamese. What they would do is that they would get Google Docs to do the initial translation, but they would have a native Vietnamese speaker to actually read through it and do exactly what you were saying, Maria, which is make sure that it made sense, correct little errors, because it's never going to be 100% correct. So thanks for raising that. That's a really good point. And I guess it's a bit like everything with technology. Nothing's ever 100% perfect, and you always need to use you be judicious, use your good judgment, use your common sense.
You still need a human element.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that. Might move on.
Yep. Okay, moving on. There is another video that I'd invite you to watch. I've actually got in the next 3 slides. There are 2 videos and a shared Google Doc. The Google Doc just asks you to reflect on and think about what communities you are aware of, that your students are already members of, and Greg has set it up as a table. But you might like to just watch these 2 videos. They are a little bit dated. This first one is called One Man Band. It comes from, both videos were made by Marco Torres. And the One Man Band, it just shows a student who obviously gifted in music in terms of music and using technology. And then the second video is much more aimed at the primary, which is a young girl who basically is running a good food, good nutrition, cooking type little clip. And she commenced her own community as well on YouTube. But I'd just ask you to reflect on both of them just in terms of what I've presented so far in terms of learning communities, and think about the untapped resources perhaps that we have at our fingertips that we may be missing. And then just if we can, Greg and I will just watch the Google Doc, and we'll give you, say, about 5 to 10 minutes to actually watch the 2 videos and then do some work on that Google Doc.
While we're waiting, we might want to play the video. So again, mute the, if you like, mute the video and watch it yourself, or you can just watch it through the VC.
My name is Ben, and I like to put my music to my videos, and I'm a one-man band. I'm really fortunate to have access to pro applications like Logic and Final Cut Pro. I wouldn't be able to figure out how to use these things without the internet. I just go on the internet, go to YouTube, type in how to, go back, apply it to my videos.
Once the video's made, we put it up on YouTube. We see how other people respond to it. A lot of the YouTube videos get really good comments from people, and then we throw it up on iTunes, working just on an assignment with your teacher. You get your grade, and that's it. But when you have the ability to get all these responses from other people, just tell you're doing a great job, it really feels good.
I'm inspired by sharing, and the sharing inspires me to make more. So it's just a cycle that just keeps going over and over again.
He has this inner passion that you rarely see in a student. He's always been like this. It's just, now it's bigger, and the things that he does are at a whole new level.
In 4th grade, I'd bring home a picture of a tree or a bike or something and put that on the fridge. Everyone's getting older now, you really kind of stop doing that. When I'm telling someone, oh, I'm working on a new project, they know that I've been thinking about the project, they know that I've written down ideas, that I'm starting to record, that I have everything planned out for afterwards, and it's a bundle. It's not just composing and then you're done with the song.
And there's just this spark of imagination in him that gets all these ideas down, and they never stop.
Welcome to my creation space. It goes from the school to my house, and then I'll email it to myself at 11 o'clock at night, work on it again at school, so it just kind of goes back and forth. Learning doesn't really have to start and end at school. You can take it to your house or learn on your own.
Having it online with all these other people kind of gives him this edge over other students in high school, and it's helped him get into the Berklee School of Music.
This is how I learn best. And I know I'm not the only one. You liked it, huh?
Okay then, folks, if you'd look at the screen or look at your presentation, you'll see that there is another link there. It's a link to the Google Doc. Obviously, you can't take it off the screen, but if you type it into your browser, you'll get the sheet. I can already see that Nick's already jumped ahead. What we'll do is we'll keep an eye on that sheet for a couple of moments, and then we will have a look at the other short clip.
One more. Sorry, you go back. Go back. It's there. Sorry.
No,
This one.
it's this one.
So you might want to ask yourself the question while I can see that as we're filling out the document, we're getting a lot of, I guess, non-digital groups, just normal kind of, social groups. We've got church, community, family interest, that sort of stuff. Think about maybe some of the digital learning communities that students might be a part of as well. So Twitter, Facebook, etc. Alicia has mentioned Edmodo. So Alicia, I gather you're there with Julie, is that right?
Sorry. She's typing.
Julie, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just broke up for a second.
Sorry, yep. Alicia's typing.
No, you just broke up again.
All the time, yep.
So, sorry we missed that, Julie. I think you're just having a bit of a problem with your connection there.
I've actually got the blue cord put in too, so I'll just turn it up, yep. Wait. Can't hear us. No.
No, you're just dropping out and in a little bit, Julie. Can you hear us all right?
Yes. We can hear you. I'll dial in and out.
Julie, actually, you're okay. You're okay.
Okay? All right. Okay,
yeah.
all right. Yeah.
We just wanted to ask, I was just going to ask Alicia about Edmodo and how your students are responding to being in that Edmodo community.
Well, actually, it's my class that use the Edmodo, our stage 3s, and
okay.
And we used it for them to get used to doing collaboration, setting up homework, setting up ideas, loading up videos to watch to use for part of the flipped learning process. Gradually, though, they move off that. By now, not too many children are using Edmodo. Sorry, I'm not getting as many posts on Edmodo regarding schoolwork, but they're using it with each other because they talk about Minecraft and things like that via Edmodo. Yeah, so they've taken control of it. I've handed it over a bit.
Minecraft's huge.
I know. I don't want to know about it.
Nor does anyone else, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
It works brilliantly.
One interesting thing with Edmodo, and it was the same thing happened last year, because we only do it in stage 3. When we introduced it to our year 5s, our year 6s thought, oh, year old hat, but the year 5s started to use it as, is anyone there? Are you on there? Yet it was this whole conversation. So we had to set parameters that you really, after 7:30 at night, no one should be posting on Edmodo unless you've got a question regarding your homework. So we had to set some pretty clear guidelines with that. Yeah.
So I guess it talks again to, the whole digital citizenship message that you need to keep constantly reinforcing with the kids, helping to understand, the kind of behavioural parameters around an online environment.
Yeah.
Okay, and Maria over there at Mary MacKillop, maybe just share with. I noticed you've mentioned some tools that I hadn't heard of before, like Wattpad.
Oh yeah, Wattpad's really popular with the Readers Club who like to write, and they write stories and they write episodes and they post them up and they read each other's and comment.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else. I'd never heard of that before.
No, Maria, while I've got you there, I'm on the end of one of the Alec Kuros doc. I'll include a link to his resources on digital storytelling. He's got about 300 or 400 there.
Fantastic!
All on links, all available free, K to 12. So
we'll add that to the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of those is called 5-Card Flicker. It's available.
I've used that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, particularly for those children who like stories, that's for sure, or creating stories.
Just conscious of the time,
Yep.
we might...
we'll move on.
Yeah, we might move on.
Thank you for everyone contributing to that. I'm just needing to go to the next slide. Sorry. Okay, this is the second video. It's about, as I said, a very young student. Again, it just reinforces the fact that our students, whether we're aware of it or not, are often involved with other communities and can finish up with millions of followers. I had a Year 6 boy who came up to me, quoted me all the copyright and terms and conditions around it. Mind you, he was under 13 and had his own YouTube channel. Sorry, Greg. A gaming channel with 4,500 followers. So in Year 6. His parents were aware of the YouTube channel, as was his sister.
Folks, I'm going to take you on a culinary journey to live a healthy lifestyle. I love BLT pasta. Cooking makes me feel awesome, and I absolutely love it when the others love my dish too. And of course, I love porcupine bones. Well, we started Cook Time with Remy because my mom started reading about bad nutrition, and we learned to link the scale of cooking to improve nutrition. So that's how we started Cook Time with Remy. I apparently was the one in the family who loved to cook. I just watched my mom and my big brother Abe cook when I was younger.
Hi folks, just going to pause that there again, as Greg pointed out before with the clip that he was showing. I invite you all to watch that at your leisure. Just that time's getting away from us. It was just interesting when we were looking at that shared Google Doc. So many of you came up with all of the social media groups that our students, and I know that we've got quite a number of secondary teachers here today, are involved with. But it's still interesting, and I know we had our e-learning advisors meeting here at the Office 5VC last week, and I know Doug actually made the comment that George Kouros has really started him thinking in terms of what social media we do block and we don't block, and what social media we maybe need to be rethinking about, and he's developing a committee who are actually going to take that on board. Won't be anything rushed into, obviously, but it's just interesting I think for us to be aware. One of the communities that came up there was the obvious one, Minecraft. The creator side of Minecraft, for those of you who are aware of it, is a marvellous, I think, learning tool, and we need to embrace it. There are difficulties in terms of CEOs actually being able to support the back end of that. But in saying that, there is a wonderful opportunity in Minecraft for some really, really deep learning. I had boys, for instance, in Year 6 create the Mawson base station to scale, and then they actually invited, the principal, Debbie Heckenberg, invited them to the staff meeting, and they actually conducted the first 20 to 40 minutes of the staff meeting by conducting all the teachers through a virtual walk through the interior of Mawson Base Station, including cafeteria, laboratories that they put all the technology in, the library which they created themselves, created all of by collecting all of the information on flora and fauna from their Year 6 colleagues, student colleagues, and then creating books and actually putting them into the library. There's another great community there that I didn't see pop up on anyone's document there, and that's the Lego community. Again, I advise us all to take a really good look at Lego. Lego in education. There's a virtual online community. It's not all robotics. Robotics certainly forms a part of it, but there is a great worldwide community of educators in using Lego. And a lot of schools are interconnecting, not just connecting Lego pieces, obviously, but connecting themselves as learners. And so I think there's an opportunity there for us to really look at that. Instagram, it's obviously got all the problems that we've got with a few of the others there, including Facebook. And of course, Twitter is great. I think it's a great avenue for teachers. Those of you who are thinking of Twitter, Sunday nights, for instance, there is a great Twitter group which was started by teachers in Sydney CEO schools called Aussie Ed. Aussie Ed Chat, or it might be just Aussie Ed. It's Hatch Aussie Ed.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, Hatch Aussie Ed, AUSSIE, capital E, capital D. I was on Sunday night, and it only operates between 8:30 and 9:30, and already that's gone global, with which is a wonderful recognition of what we're doing as teachers. But it's also a way of teasing out ideas, learning from each other, and again building a great community of learners. Okay, on that document now, I'd like you, I know it's still in that same column, but I'd like to give you just about 3 minutes, because I'm really conscious that time's getting away from us. Just if you wouldn't mind, we'll quickly slip back to it. Well, what learning communities are we already members of? So I invite you to just go back to that Google Doc and just give us an idea of what professional learning networks that you're already members of.
You just scroll down. Oh, there was a table there. Maybe we need to put a table in. If somebody could put a table in that document.
It should be there.
Yeah, it was there before.
Yeah, I've got it here.
You're looking at the student one.
Yeah, that's what I've said. The student one, they can add just to the student one. Yeah, so folks, if you just add to the student one, that's fine. If you just put your name alongside and then
doesn't quite need to be 36 point. Just thinking while that's happening, you might want to quickly show the Aussie Ed. Maybe bring up Twitter if you've got a login to Twitter.
I'd have to go right out.
Don't you make a new tab and just sign?
Twitter new tab.
Twitter.com.
It should just take me straight there.
Oh, Charles Sturt University.
Actually, on the tweet then. There's Aussie Ed.
And of course, the other community there is the CEO eLearn community as well, or that hashtag. So if you do a search on the Aussie Ed hashtag, you'll see quite a few results. You need to put the hash in there first. Oh no, there it is. Yep. There you go. Yeah. You can hit, yeah.
That's it.
So that's a great community if you're interested in following them on Twitter, for those of you who use Twitter. And we can see, just having a look at Mike's on Twitter, Julie, Mark and Alicia. Not sure if you guys are on Twitter. Maria, Jeff, Nick, all on Twitter. Should put us in there. Greg, definitely on Twitter, at @gbasford. Twitter. So we've got some clear sort of communities there. Google Plus as well.
I was interested. The Scootle groups are really good to join because you can actually join based on what curriculum areas you want, or.
Okay.
So that's actually quite good, and that's all over the country, and often to some other countries in the world too. Yep.
So you can join the kind of KLA that you're interested in.
Yeah, you can actually follow a KLA, so you can create your own Google group, which we've been trying to do at school, or you can actually follow one. So follow one Australian curriculum. So any new things that come up with Australian curriculum development automatically gets shared through that group. So that's quite good.
Frozen.
Just go back to the presentation.
Yeah.
No, I'm just conscious you've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I might just...
Okay, folks, just before we do close up, I'd just like to quickly go through those of you who aren't members of Google Plus but have considered it. Obviously, this one's only available to teachers, although Greg was saying it is being trialled in a couple of senior high schools at the moment.
Yeah, actually, just we might just get a bit of feedback. Has there been a request from any students, so Jeff, Mike, Nick, Maria, have students requested at all to get access to Google Plus at your schools?
No.
It's a no?
No, not really, Greg.
Okay, no problem. So so are they aware about Hangouts and that sort of thing?
Yeah, our guys are.
Yeah,
Okay.
No one's really requested it. They know it's there. A couple of kids have sort of said, why can't we get it? But no one's really pushed the issue at all.
Okay. So what? Just to put this in, or just to refer to what John was talking about. Phil Hogg, who's the e-learning advisor in the Inner West region, is running a collaborative learning project with 4 schools. That's Holy Cross, Trinity, Mara Sisters College, and Bethlehem College. And what they're doing is they're using Google Plus and Hangouts plus a combination of other CloudShare tools to run virtual classes for geography and economics. So this is a way that the schools can provide those classes when they don't have sufficient numbers at the individual school to take those particular courses. So economics, for instance, there weren't quite enough kids to run economics at each individual school, so instead they're running it virtually through the 4 schools with about a dozen students taking economics from the 4 schools, in total from the 4 schools. So to do that, we've had to enable Google Plus for those schools, which we obviously did in consultation with the principal and other members of staff, and that's been quite successful. So one of the things that we're considering, once we review how that's worked towards the end of this year, is to actually enable or give high schools the option to enable Google Plus for their senior school students. When I say senior school, I mean you have to be 13 and over, so it would be generally year 8 and above, and you can enable it on a year-by-year basis. So anyway, keep an eye out for more information about that, possibly in term 4 or early next term, early in 2015. So, sorry, back over to you, John.
No problem. Just before we conclude this afternoon, just like to give you a quick look at what a Google Plus community can look like, and I found it particularly useful in terms of our teachers. So, as I said at OLMC, our Lady of Mount Carmel at Mount Pritchard, from where I've just been seconded, we've been working with NOTOSH, so we developed a community because Ewan obviously travels all around the world, lives in Scotland. Tom's living in Melbourne, so it was I suppose, a marriage of convenience in a sense, that we developed this community. And then the staff have actually taken it on board and run with it tremendously well. So it's a simple process. You need to sign in. So you'd need to sign in to Google Plus, which is available through Google Apps. So if you go to your 9 squares or you go to your apps, you'll easily
Just
follow
link to it,
the 9 squares. Once you've set up your profile and signed into Google Plus, you'll notice that your plus and your Christian name is always on display in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And I'm trying not to rush, but I am aware. So I've just opened up our Google Plus, and I've actually gone to the home button, and I've clicked on Communities, which is a tab 5 or 6 down. But just to quickly go through it, obviously your home button speaks for itself. Then you have your profile, which you can change. Now, it's been updated with the new version of Google, so it used to be called Circles. It's now called People, but they still use the circle symbol. That enables you to invite people, friends, colleagues, those people that you wish to be members of this particular community. It's also a great place for it's photos, a great place for syncing and uploading photos, and you can control all of these elements in your settings as well. I've had a number of teachers the schools I've worked in, have said, but what about privacy and things like that? Well, as you go through your setup in Google Plus, it allows you to actually put the settings that you want on them. So, for instance, for argument's sake, I can have all my photos from my iPhone, from my iPad, go to my Google Plus community as soon as I'm within Wi-Fi range, and they are strictly private. It's up to me with whom I share them. But it's a great little tool, and it's great for storage and things like that. It's not taking up hard drive space. Communities, that's where you would create your community, and the community I'm in at the moment, as I said, is my school community. It's a great place that you can actually go and use your calendar, and you can put events, and that leads us to the really important element of it's through your Google Plus communities that it's so easy to set up your Hangouts with like-minded colleagues and setting up communities and those aspects of it. So I can't recommend highly enough becoming a member of the Google Plus community. Once you are a member of it, if I go back one step back, which is hopefully going to go, taking our own sweet time, we need to go back to I'll go back to home. I'm just clicking on my home button. And as you can see, Scott Hansen uses Google Plus, so do a whole lot of other folks. Donovan's putting his hand up. It's still taking some time to load. I was looking. Yeah, so when you're in your home button, it will actually, Greg just asked me what am I looking for. I'm looking for where it gives me the recommended groups that I could belong to. Go to communities. I'm clicking on communities. Thank you. Okay, so on this screen you can see this is a community I moderate. That's the old MC community. It's private. It has 84 members. Then below that there is a whole list of communities of which I'm a member or I've joined, and these communities are from all around the world. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see that there's Minecraft there, there's Educators on Google+, EduMaker, the GEG community for Sydney, workshops, Connected Workshops, the American group, Google Apps for Education, and Google Apps in Education. But they'll also give you a whole list of recommended for you, and you can peruse those at your leisure. So I'll go back to the presentation now. Are there any questions around Google+? It's a fairly straightforward.
Just running out of time.
Yeah.
Just point out that the next slide has got those videos, the how-to videos.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Greg.
That's all right.
Yep. Well, here we go.
So we're just going to say, folks, that if you want to know anything about getting started with Google+, there's some videos there. And look, you know, the how-to one is just a Google search away, so it's pretty straightforward. next one.
Okay.
I think that's.
And folks, we're out of time, but what I had included here, as I said, was a quick video from Dr. Alec Kouros. You might like to watch that, and there's a response sheet available there for you as well. But you might like to watch that in your own leisure. He asks 3 really important questions that I think are worth considering. And if you'd like to share your responses with me over the next few days, I'll be only too happy to respond back to you. And I'll make sure I give you all a copy and a link to that digital storytelling link, which I alluded to earlier. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your sacrifice of an hour, and I hope this afternoon has helped you get your head around the need for and creating a worthwhile learning community.
So, folks, thank you, John.
Thank you, Greg.
And, folks, any final questions before we finish up today?
No, it's good.
Thanks, Julie.
So,
I'm tired.
next term we'll be running some more of these CloudShare support sessions. I think the ones that's interesting. I think the end of last term we didn't have as many people come along to the previous 2. So I think maybe we might need to shunt them more towards earlier in the term to get more of a turn up. I know the first 2 we had quite a few people, but it's the we happy few who have made the effort to come along. So we thank you for that. Quality, obviously.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah, that's true. So we wish you all well as you kind of stretch towards the finish line there with a week and a bit to go to the end of term. And obviously I hope that you have a refreshing and happy holiday. And hopefully we'll see you again, if not before, at the next CloudShare support session, which I think will be running in the first few weeks of next term. So keep an eye out for the schedule that we'll publish probably either late this term or early next term. Just one last thing. As I said before, the video of this session will be up before the end of this term. Donovan and I will put that together. And again, thank you to John for putting in the time of doing this presentation, and wish you all the best.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Greg.